What's going on, guys? I'm Fuller from Custom Offsets TV on YouTube, and since we've been sitting at home, I've been getting a ton of messages, even on like my personal Instagram account, with all these questions about wheels, tires, lift kits, and all that stuff. So I wanted to go over a few different categories today, obviously being wheels, and kind of answer some of the, I guess, more simple but very vague questions that we get all the time regarding wheels and their sizes, what they're made out of, and what all the numbers mean. So first things first, we'll jump into the sizing and what all those numbers are. So typically for the truck world, you're gonna see something like 20 by 10 negative 24. So when they are saying those numbers, what do those actually mean? Well, the first number is referring to the diameter. So that's gonna be this measurement here. Now, one interesting thing is that if you actually measure out this wheel, like this is an 18, but if you measured it edge to edge, it's gonna come out to like 19.5 inches. That's because the measurements are actually made from inside where this little channel is. That's where the measurements are taken from. You just can't actually physically measure that with a tape measure, but I'm just showing you the diameter is going to be how big the wheel is this way. Now the second one is going to be width, and that's another one where it's measured from bead seat to bead seat. So if it says 10 wide, it's the inside portion of the wheel that's going to be 10 inches wide. If you measure the actual outside diameter, like on this 8 wide, it actually comes out to about 9 inches because you got a little bit extra material on each side. So that's the first two numbers. The last one on a 20 by 10 negative 24, that's going to be your offset. Now offset is basically a measurement of where they move the center pad that's on the back of the wheel, and I'll show you that. So this back center pad is basically where this wheel bolts up to your truck. Now, depending on where you move that, either closer to the face of the wheel, which the front of it is the face, or the back of the wheel, that's going to change your offset either positive or negative. So moving that pad further back and away from the center line towards the vehicle side of the wheel, that's going to create negative offset, which in turn pushes the wheel further out, and that's where you're going to achieve that stance. So a really common question we get is, how do I get a wider stance? That can really be done a couple of ways. You can either put spacers on the wheels that you have now, or if you're ordering new wheels, you want to just make sure you're ordering the correct width and offset that you're looking for, which kind of brings me right into the next portion of this. I get questions all the time about, well, what's the difference between a 20 by 10 and a 20 by 12? And because those numbers are just measurements, it's
literally 2 inches.
A 20 by 10 is 2 inches narrower than a 20 by 12. And it seems very simple, but when you look at all these numbers, I can easily see how it can get more confusing. And that brings me right to the same thing with offset. If you compare a negative 44 versus a negative 24, that's actually a lot more complex question than people think, because although technically the difference there is only 20 millimeters, but typically a negative 44 is going to be a 12-inch wide wheel, and a negative 24 is going to be only a 10-inch wide wheel. So you're changing a couple of different things there. So not only are you decreasing your lip size with the less offset, it's not going to stick out as far, and the wheel itself is narrower, which also means it won't stick out as far. So the effect of changing two of the measurements really has a drastic role rather than changing just one. So I got a question the other day about what's the difference between a negative 44 and a negative 51. So there are some companies out there that are a little more unique, like Archon, that their 12 wide is a negative 51 offset, which means it basically has more stance than a 12 wide negative 44. However, it's
7 millimeters.
That is the only difference there. So literally what will happen is the wheel will stick out 7 millimeters further than your negative 44 offset. So that's the difference between like a negative 51 and a negative 44 if you're comparing wheels that are the same width. And I know that some of this might get kind of confusing, and I'm not going into it in full detail because we've done a ton of videos on the YouTube channel with what is offset or how to measure backspacing and all that kind of stuff too. If you want to get into that, we've got more videos on it. Just wanted to cover some of the high-level topics about wheels. So another really common question is, what exactly are wheels made out of? And there's really 3 different types of wheels. You have cast wheels, which is going to be most typical, like this example here from Centerline. This is one of their new wheels. I'm actually working on a project for myself with these guys, so I just happen to have one here. This is a cast wheel. Pretty much how everybody's making their wheels now is a low pressure cast, which means basically your cast aluminum, which is aluminum alloy, so it's made up of a few different metals, but primarily aluminum, is basically injection molded into a mold, and then it's all cleaned up and deburred, and then goes through a paint process and blasting and all that stuff to finally get what you have here. The other type of wheel that you're going to most commonly see is going to be a fully forged wheel. So that actually starts off as one solid piece of aluminum, and they put it into a CNC machine to basically mill out or machine out that entire design of the wheel, the bolt pattern, everything is all done from that one solid piece of aluminum. Now that does drive up the price quite a bit because the cost of the materials is more and it's a lot more labor intensive, and there's a ton of waste of aluminum too because you're getting rid of a lot of material to make the design, where this is utilizing basically every little square inch of your mold. You're only putting in a certain amount of material. The third one that isn't as common is really a combination of the two, and it's most often called compression forged or rotary forged, something like that. And I think Axe Off-Road Wheels is probably the company that kind of pioneered this, or at least brought it to the eyes of the truck world, because it was happening in cars for a little while, but not trucks. So that, like I said, is a combination where basically they're taking a wheel and casting it like you typically would your regular cast wheel, and then using a lot of heat and pressure, they're expanding the width of the wheel and basically forging the barrel, which is the outer portion of the wheel. So you have a cast centerpiece with a forged outer piece. So that kind of gives you a blend of both worlds. It gives you really good strength, so they're able to do a lot of really cool designs with thin spokes. So that's kind of the benefit there. They're significantly lighter as well, so that's that. Another common question we get is about spike lug nuts or open caps versus closed caps and what all that means, or dual drilled wheels. What is a dual drilled wheel? So like this particular one is actually only single drilled, but usually this wheel you'd find, this has a cap in the center that's turnable, and there's a few wheel brands that are doing that, where they have a dual drilled wheel that still allows you to have exposed lug holes. So these holes here are what I'm talking about. So you can actually see through to where the lug nuts go. So then it's gonna matter if you want black ones or chrome ones, and this allows you to run spike lug nuts because there's nothing covering the holes so they can stick out further. But on wheels that are dual drilled, that means that they have two bolt patterns. So typically, like on a 6 lug, it's going to be drilled out in one direction for a forward bolt pattern. And then they just turn the wheel a little bit and drill some more holes, and that's gonna be for a Chevy bolt pattern. So your wheel will have 12 holes on it. But only 6 of those will actually match up to your specific truck when you put it on there. There's definitely nothing wrong with this. It actually kind of helps you because it keeps costs down for the manufacturers, and they can pass that along to the customers, so that's really nice. But those wheels are also going to have a covered center cap, which means you can't run spike lug nuts, and you just usually bolt on that cap with like an Allen wrench or a screw. But that's the difference between a dual drilled wheel and a single drilled wheel. So I think those are probably some of the most common questions that we get about wheels. I know it kind of goes over everything in a large overview, but if you want to see more detailed stuff, you can definitely check out the YouTube channel. Otherwise, just drop your questions in the comments below, send us an email, get a hold of us, and we'll be able to help you out. If you're already ready and you know what you need, you can check out customoffsets.com. We got wheels, tires, suspension, everything there. If you're trying to figure out what fits, we're kind of the experts at that too. We got a gallery that's got like 70,000+ vehicles in it, so you can just search by your year, make, and model and see what other people have done to their trucks to make certain sizes fit. And then you get a lot better understanding as far as what all those numbers mean on wheels. So hopefully that helps. It's kind of a long outro, but you get the point. customoffsets.com. Peace.